I can't believe I just now noticed this, but I just now realized that you are not James Goldwater.
I am not James Goldwater, but I think me and him share very similar views in a lot of ways. So I think I will be a decent fill-in for James Goldwater. And plus, he's got a lot cooler last name than I do, so I can't.
That is true. Goldwater. I mean, Goldwater is like the synonym for Scotch.
But
my opinion.
I'm drinking enough for him right now, so we're good to go.
Okay, this is the thing: is you guys may have a lot in common, but I think you outrank him in terms of bourbon collection. So I'll give you that much.
I might. I don't know what he's got going. I know he's a cool guy, so I assume he's got a pretty great bourbon collection.
The thing is, I just think he has too much wine instead of bourbon.
Oh, you can't do that.
That's why. Hey, I'm with you, man.
I thought this was a bourbon podcast. I'm about to leave.
Wait, no, just stay for just a little while longer, man. Come on.
All right. It's called Drunkenomics. It's not Bourbonomics. It's drunken.
Did you know that over $5 trillion exchanges hands on a daily basis? That's an average of over $220 billion an hour. Now, how does this much money move every single day, and why does it move the way it does? Here on Drunkenomics, two bartenders who also happen to be students at the University of Nebraska Graduate School of Business are going to sit down and drink to the global economy and try and translate it into English. So sit back, relax, pour yourself a stiff one, and have a drink with us to the comedy that is the global economy.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of Drunkenomics. This is the drinking podcast with an economics problem. I, because am your only host this week because James is traveling and on a plane or whatever he's doing, I guess I'm your more gracious host because I'm your only host, and I'm joined alongside my near and dear friend, Luke Lloyd. What's up, man?
Thank you so much. I love that introduction, by the way. I love how it's a drinking podcast with an economics problem. I love that reference.
Yeah, it's not the other way around. It's not the economics problem.
It's not the other way around, but we do have a lot of economic problems right now. So it fits in right now.
Yeah. Do we have a drinking problem? Absolutely not. So, no, never. Exactly. Actually, matter of fact, I'm very good at drinking, so I don't have a problem drinking.
It's networking, right?
Yeah, you got it, man. And also, I apologize for my voice. I kind of going over this cough thing or whatever. This bourbon is certainly helping. What were you drinking again? That Basil Hayden's?
Yeah, so I'm drinking Basil Hayden's Subtle Smoke. It's a limited edition bottle. I think you can only pick it up around the Kentucky area, if I'm not mistaken. So my girlfriend is from Kentucky, so I get to go down there every so often. I'm a lucky guy, get to pick up some bourbon from a bourbon collection. So it's very good.
Wow.
It's got like a nice little subtle smoky aftertaste.
I was going to say, because you mentioned it was smoky, and I'm like, man, a smoky bourbon is like... Because I like smoky scotches, so like smoky bourbons, that's got to be another level. You know, just like it's got to be fantastic.
I mean, it really, tastes like you got off the coals of the grill outside.
Oh my God.
It really is that smoky, but I prefer it that way. I like it like that. It's a little different. It's not my go-to everyday bourbon, but like it's something to switch it up a little bit.
I mean, $80 a bottle. I mean, I feel like an everyday bourbon is a little excessive, but I mean, hey, if you got them, drink them. But real quick, I just want to give a quick shout out to our own social media page. It's at Drunkenomical, DRUNKENOMICAL. That's us on the metaverse. So that's, I guess, under the umbrella of that is Facebook, Instagram. And then that's also us on Twitter, DRUNKENOMICAL. You can also find Luke on Twitter as well. What's your handle again?
It's at LloydBoyLuke.
Yeah.
So a little different, but I'll tell you what, I've been paying attention to your page. You've got a lot of content, dude. I crack myself up every single day watching this stuff, man. You got some good stuff, but like the thing is, though, you make it interesting in a way people can understand it, but they also enjoy it because you put it in a kind of different perspective in a different way than a lot of people do.
Like a drunken sailor kind of deal.
Like a drunken sailor. Like you're always drinking bourbon every single day, every day.
Yeah, well, because, I mean, we're in that cycle now. I mean, it's June 1. This is crazy. I can't believe it's June already in the year of our Lord 2022, but, I mean, it's QT day 1.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thanks for calling me a cutie. I really do.
Dude, you're such a cutie, man. Hey, that's why you think Fox Business has you on because you're smart? No, man. It's because you're a QT, dude.
Well, I'll tell you what. Back in the day when we were interns together at CNBC, I wasn't a cutie when I was 300 pounds. That's for sure.
Hey, man, but by the end of that summer, dude, you were...
It's because of you. Because you kicked my ass.
Hey, you're giving me way too... That was... You got up at 6 in the morning. You showed up early and you put in the work.
Well, you showed up with me and pushed me. Yeah. So, anyway, quick story to the viewers. I was 300 pounds and halfway through our internship together in New York City, me and Aaron, I texted Aaron, I think it was like a Saturday, probably in like July. I'm like, Aaron, like I got really fat and I didn't realize it till now. I need you to kick me in the ass. We're going to the gym Monday morning. Like push me as hard as you can. And then like a month and a half went by and I went from like 300 to like 240 in like a month and a half because we were waking up every day, Monday through Friday, working out.
Yeah, like 6 a.m. Well, all I do is just like, Luke, come on, man. You're strong. You're stronger than you think you are. And I'm just trying to help you I'm just trying to help you lift that threshold of you being stronger than you think you are.
Those were good times, though.
They were good times. Oh, man. It was a very fun internship. Great experience. Got to meet so many cool people. Yourself being one of them, being the coolest one that I met.
Dude, you put me on such a high pedestal. You need to stop it, man. Seriously. Because if it wasn't, like you said, if it wasn't for this guy, Aaron, your host here, I don't think I'd be, even close to where I'm at today. He was a big influence in a lot of ways. So, seriously,
fine. You're smart as heck yourself.
All know, Aaron's a fun dude. That's what I was about to say. Aaron's not only a fun dude or a smart dude, you're also a fun dude. Because that's what makes these interesting. That's why was very happy to come on here because I know I can have fun, drink some bourbon. Heck, I might even throw in a cigar here soon, and we can talk some economics and finance. So that's what I'm about.
Smoke me if you got it, man. But speaking of which, dude, I don't know. Every time you go on Fox Business, man, you always drop some real hard truth bombs. Something it's I love your perspective. So I just kind of want to hear your perspective on this $9 trillion balance sheet. We knew it was going to be a problem. It was a looming problem for the last 2 years. Now it's looking at us directly in the face, especially after the fact that we just had a quarter of negative GDP growth. So I just kind of want to hear your general thoughts on, this quantitative tightening, the QT, the fact that it's starting now. What's on your forecast? My biggest
concern is that the stock market, the S&P is already down 20% and the NASDAQ was already down 30%. And we didn't even start tightening yet. Like we just started. We hiked 50 basis points, or we're up to 75 basis points right now.
We did 25 and then a 50.
Yeah, we're up to 75 basis points right now. We barely even hiked rates. We just started today offloading the balance sheet, and we dropped with the perception of us doing that. Right? Yeah. So what happens when you don't have a buyer anymore, the biggest buyer in the market, the Federal Reserve, buying up stuff? Instead, they're offloading their balance sheet and selling stuff. That's my biggest concern. I mean, there's definitely going to be issues there because unless there's a strong economy to support the Fed offloading their balance sheet, we're going to see more damage and more pain.
Well, so I mean, you said a lot of things there that I want to react to, but one, my concern is off of the last thing you said. I don't think the economy is as strong as it was 6 months ago with inflation the way it is. And I mean, retail sentiment confidence, investor sentiment confidence, I mean, all that is getting crushed.
Yep.
So just based off your predictions, do you think Q2 2022, is there going to be positive GDP growth in your opinion?
So I think it's a good question, but I also think that might be the wrong question that everybody's asking. Everyone's wondering, are we in a recession? Are we going to see a positive or a negative quarter GDP growth? I mean, from a technical side of things, 2 negative quarters of consecutive GDP negative growth is a recession.
The classic.
Right? The classic is the classic definition. But what does that tell you? Right? What does that really tell you about the underlying economy, about the stock market? It really doesn't tell you much, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's possible. I mean, I think the street's got it at less than a 20% chance that we're going to see a negative quarter. But what if we see like a 0.02% chance or 0.02% growth? Well, I mean, that's the same as basically a negative quarter.
I agree with you. Expectations, I think, now are at about 1.8%.
Yeah, they're high. They're pretty high.
Yeah, 1.8% quarter over quarter. I mean, that's usually not that great, especially if there's like a good economy. But I still think it's super high based off of what we just saw. I mean, we missed expectations by like 2% last quarter.
See, from a technical definition, like a recession, cool. Like if you want to look at that and call it a recession, then be my guest. But really, like what it comes down to when I think about a recession applying to the overall economy and the stock market are jobs. As long as people have jobs, the economy and stock market will be fine. If we start to see an uptick in people losing jobs, losing discretionary income, that's where we're going to see a big issue. And my biggest philosophy right now, and thing I'm paying attention to, I think everybody should be paying attention to, is the credit card debt levels, like how quickly they're rising. I mean, that tells me that people are still spending money, but it's kind of artificial.
Right.
Like this artificial, it's almost like an artificial consumer.
Yeah. So one of the other things I wanted to react to that you said earlier, and I want to react to this too. Gosh, dude, you say too many great things all at once, and it's just like, it's tough to react to every single one as you say them. But one of the things you said earlier was the markets are kind of reacting to QT already being developed now. First of all, the Fed, I mean, the only thing they can really buy is they can't buy equity. They can only buy debt, which I still get. It does bump up stock prices a little bit because it's like, okay, the debt is secured on that end. But the Fed announced this QT thing a while ago. They announced that they're scaling back and reducing their balance sheet a while ago. So you don't think that the markets would have priced it in already?
You would think that.
Because, the stock market's very forward thinking.
But the markets are also very inefficient, and that's what makes a market, right? If they worked perfectly every single way, there'd be no money to be made, right? Yeah. So some of it's priced in. I mean, that's why we dropped 20% to 30%, right? The underlying economy is showing some signs of negativity, like I mentioned, credit card debt rising, people starting to get laid off, things like that. But, we haven't really seen too many horrible things in the economy yet. But what has happened is the market has discounted horrible things to come and a quantitative tightening cycle like we're seeing. So some of it's priced in, but I would say, man, if we start to see people lose jobs, not spend as much, the underlying economy is not going to be strong enough to hold up.
Disposable income, all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. It won't be strong enough to hold up against this quantitative tightening cycle. And that comes back to, the stat that, an average bear market in a recession, whether we get it now or 6 months down the road, maybe the beginning of next year, the average drawdown on the S&P is like 32%.
30. Wow, I thought it was like 35.
I mean, it's right around there, dude.
It's
32
like a range.
to 35%.
Like, okay, so I'm just like partial idiot. I'm not a complete. I missed it by 10%, so I'm like,
Hey, man, I'll tell you what. We're not. This industry is very range based, right? Because we use history. Oh yeah. We use history to try to predict the future, but the history is not always perfect, especially in these times. These are unprecedented times. We've never seen anything like ridiculous. This before. So history can only tell us so much, man.
And this QT cycle is just like the biggest. I mean, before COVID started, it was a $2 trillion balance sheet ish, right? So like something along those lines. I don't remember because it seems like a lifetime ago, but but even then, like they were like, okay, this is ridiculous. $2 trillion is just unheard of. And it was like, if you look at the size of the balance sheet prior to COVID happening, it's like, okay, historically, this is just massive. And then now it's $9 trillion. So $7 trillion reduction.
That's a lot of money.
It's unheard of.
I mean, people throw around trillions now, like even billions, like it's nothing. Like billions and trillions are so large amounts of money that people just can't comprehend. But we throw it around like it's going down to the candy store, like with your little kid, and buying whatever you want. Like but it's arbitrary. The problem is
it's arbitrary. It's kind of like the credit card debt that you're talking about. It's arbitrary. It's just
no one cares until the rooster comes home to roost, whatever the saying is, right? Until it's time to pay the piper. What's the Silicon Valley series? Pied Piper or whatever it is.
I forget what it is. I haven't seen the show, but it's like
it's a great show. Anyone here listening that hasn't watched Silicon Valley, the TV show, definitely watch it. It's pretty damn good.
That's so fitting because James loves the show.
But when it comes time to pay the piper, people will then start to care. They don't care until they rack up $25,000 in credit card debt, and then they're paying 20% on that. They pay $5,000 a year in interest, and they're going to get out of that because average income is $50,000 a year, whatever it is. Like that, then people will care.
But so, there's a lot of concerns here because one, savings rates are low, the lowest it's been since I saw Liz Ann Saunders. She wrote an article about how personal savings rates are the lowest it's been since 2008.
Yeah. Oof. And consumer confidence is down to those levels too since 2008.
Oh, yeah. Consumer confidence and consumer sentiment.
But spending is still at all-time highs.
I don't know.
Which is crazy.
But I think it's also because we're right in the middle of like the highest inflationary, the highest sustaining not transitory, but sustaining inflationary period that we've seen in a while. So is spending high, or is it just because
people are still spending even though inflation's high, right? So people are still going traveling. They're still going to the gas pump. They're still going out to eat.
Yeah.
The thing is, inflation and these issues we're seeing in the economy, you usually see the consumer react differently than they are right now. Usually when you see prices rise like this, people cut back. Yeah. Before the 1970s, 1980s, people had one car. They never ate out. They didn't travel. They took one vacation a year. Now, with social media, and this comes back to psychology. Everything is based on psychology in today's world. Yeah. Right? Everything is.
This person's living their best life and I'm not.
They go on social media. They see other people spending money, going out, traveling. People post their best life. Everyone's like, I can do that. If they're doing it, I can do that. So now everyone's got two cars, not one. They go out to eat They go out to eat four times a week instead of one time a week that people used to do. They're now taking 3 to 4 vacations a year instead of one, while the average income stayed this relatively the same since the 1970s, inflation adjusted, right? So everyone's buying more things in the same amount of income, discretionary income. And that's why debt levels are rising very quickly. Eventually, that bubble bursts.
Yeah, well, I also think all that also contributes to inflationary cycles, such as this one. If everybody's buying that grill because they want to host a grill out because they want to live their best life, hey, life's too short for me to not have this grill or whatever it is, or have this car or put these rims on. It's like, all right.
I agree, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
is it refill time already?
Okay, yeah. So you got it. So just so everyone knows, Aaron just saw me pour in my drink. I'm already one bourbon deep down. So now here's number 2. Anyway, I agree, man.
What? Wait. This is only your second one? Oh man, you gotta come on, dude.
But everyone's trying. Listen, I'm all for it.
I forgive you.
Even being a wealth advisor and a financial advisor and helping high net worth people, I've helped people all around the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
I've helped people that have $500,000 that, spend a certain amount of money, but they're going to be completely fine all through retirement, never have to worry about anything because they don't spend too much. I've had clients come in worth $15 million that are barely going to make it by in retirement because they spend so much money, right? Every situation, everybody's mentality, everyone's psychology is different. But I would say the overall psychology over the past 20, 30 years has been kind of this YOLO mentality. You only live once. Why not just go spend as much money as you can, try to own multiple properties. That's why people got in trouble in 08, 09. But we didn't really learn our lesson.
No.
We haven't learned our lesson.
And I don't know if that's the fault of the central bank and the treasury. As much as I would like to blame them, I do think the outcome would have been a lot worse without them. But I just think they kind of remove that layer of accountability.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I work with a lot of, recently I've been talking with a lot of other financial advisors and what I've been finding is they are running into similar kind of mentalities and similar issues with younger generations, especially. The amount of 30 to 40 year olds that have large amounts of money, more money than they ever had because of the past 2 years, they were making more money than they ever had because, some people in these sales positions were making 4 or 5 times the amount of money they're used to. Let's take being a loan officer. Let's take mortgages.
Oh, right? The last 2 years. It's crazy.
Because the housing market was so damn hot and houses appreciated so much. There are loan officers used to making maybe $100,000, $150,000 a year that now are pulling in $750,000.
Oh yeah. So I know a bunch of those people.
What happens then? Well, I know a couple people that have increased their lifestyle. They bought a new house. They upgraded to $1 million house from their $300,000 house. They bought a new car. They took 4 or 5 vacations. What happens when the housing market comes down? What happens when the housing market, they're not making $750,000 anymore. They go back down to their $100,000 a year.
Well,
now they're locked in with their new big house, their new car. That's the issue.
All these car payments, you got $15,000 worth of house, car, all that kind of stuff, payments, insurance on all those things. Maybe even more, actually. I don't even know. I've never been wealthy, so I don't know if it comes out to a month. People adjust
their lifestyle so quickly, right? They get that big bonus check. They go out and spend it. They go out and plan around it. That's human psychology. That's human nature. But that's why if you understand human nature, human psychology, economics is just a social science. It's understanding how people react to certain situations.
Yeah, it's just that it revolves around money. But speaking of the job market, it's one of those things where right now, the job market, I guess since the beginning of the year, the job market has really cooled down, but there's still more openings than applicants willing to fill them. But I don't know. Like, I saw the most recent JOLTS report, and I don't really believe it because it did show a slowing economy. It did show fewer job openings, but I don't know. I think with the new wave of graduates, of college and high school graduates that just happened like a couple weeks ago.
There's like 11.4 million, right, available?
I think so. Let me take a look.
Yeah, it's like 11.4 million. But here's my theory. But it comes down to jobs.
Smaller than it normally is.
Here's my theory when it comes down to jobs is that people have made more money than they ever have because a lot of people poached. They went down the street to the competitors, poached off of their competitor, their best employees.
Oh, yeah.
And then they paid them 35% more money or something like that, right?
And then they went back to their current, and a lot of them would go back to their current employers and say, hey, I got an offer down the street at your competitor's place. They're paying me this 20% more to do the same exact job that I'm doing here.
But the question you need to ask yourself, are those people 35% more productive? If the answer to that is no, then this is unsustainable. This can't last.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah.
My theory is that people coming out of college or even within 5 years out of college working, they're going to be fine. It's going to be the people that have been working for 15 to 30 years that have senior positions that were making more money than they ever have. These people are going to get hit hard. Some people are going to be forced to retire. They're going to force into retirement. Dang. People are going to have a tough time if we see layoffs. Who's the first people to go that are laid off? It's not the people paid the least. It's usually the executives or the middle management, someone that's been tenured for 25 years.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say.
So those are the first people to go.
I've been there forever.
So when we get through a recessionary scenario, companies would rather hire cheap labor, which means younger labor. So people in their 20s and 30s are probably going to be fine. It's people in their 40s and 50s that's going to see the brunt of this pain.
So I am looking at the JOLTS report now. I couldn't see the number like the job opening numbers, but it came in at 11.4, which is down from the 11.55 from the previous month. Yeah, so that's for April, and I'm trying to see the number of employers available to fill those jobs, and I'm going to guess that it's a lot less than 11.4.
Well, I think it's like probably 2.5 million or something, 3 million.
Oh, 4.4 million. Okay, so that's the amount of people that left their jobs. Sorry, that's not the. Yeah, I mean, so it's probably around 2
million. It's like 3 million. Yeah, it's like something ridiculously small. Like, the thing is, in my opinion, over the next 6 months, you're going to see those even each other out. So 11.4 is going to come down to 7, and then 3 million is going to come up to 7. So it's going to meet somewhere in the middle over the next 6 months.
I agree, because I think what I'm seeing already is a lot of companies are laying off a lot of people. I mean, you see headline after headline after headline, and a bunch of companies are laying off a bunch of people. A bunch of people are scaling back on hiring because, I don't know, is it supply and demand for their specific sector? Is it, are they bracing for some sort of, with what Jamie Dimon says, a hurricane?
Yeah, it's all of the above. I said it today that we saw last month the lowest productivity rate ever, like in the history of the United States, basically. Wow. And this also comes back to the fact of Elon Musk saying today that you basically have to work a minimum of 40 hours in the office or you're fired. Like, I'm not saying if you work from home, you're not productive. That's not what I'm saying at all. Because there's a lot of people that work from home that are productive.
Yeah, because I work from home, bro. It's not that I am productive, right? But
you're probably drinking the bourbon on the job. No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, between me and the fence post, I'm not.
No, right when I hopped on here, you were jamming on the guitar. If I were you, if I was working from home, dude, I'd pick up my guitar and be working while jamming out on the guitar at the same time.
Yeah, man, who doesn't like a little bit of Rage Against the Machine when they're playing?
What's some Metallica, bro?
Or some Metallica. Oh, I love Metallica, man.
Or some AC/DC, Van Halen, Def Leppard, bro. Like, I'll jam out to all that.
Yeah, because I remember you did all those, like, when we jammed together, you did all those Van Halen covers.
Yeah.
I mean, you play a lot like Van Halen. Like, you're a stud, man.
You're a stud. Are you Van Hagar or Van,
I don't know.
Are you Van David Lee Roth?
Man. Because I like them both, you know what I mean? It's really tough.
It is tough, but it's an important question. It's probably going to judge or be based on our friendship, depending on how you answer.
Okay, so all right, so I'm going to just kind of peep in here real lightly and just say I like David Lee Roth.
All right, we can continue to be friends.
Okay, thank God. Okay, because 1984 was, I think that was their best. I think that was their peak.
So Hagar was definitely a better singer. There's no doubt about that. But David Lee Roth, he was a better entertainer. He knew how to make the songs unique, and that's what I appreciate.
He was a front man. He was a front man.
Yep.
And I love Sammy Hagar too. Don't get me wrong. It's kind of like AC/DC. You know, the original singer was better.
Yeah,
I like Bon Scott better.
Yeah.
But yeah, what were we talking about? Gosh.
Dude, I'll tell you what. Music, finance, music, it all goes together, man. I'll tell you what. Dude, when I'm going to the office and it's like a red day or something crazy going on that like economies, all kinds of news, I put on some nice soft like classic rock.
Yeah.
I used to go to what's his name? I used to go to Neil Young until he became political. That was my go-to classic.
Neil Young?
Until he got super political recently.
Dude, a lot of the people that I listen to, a lot of the musicians I listen to are super political now. And it's like, yeah, whatever. I don't care.
But
if you make good music.
Man, talking about politics, musicians, I'm not going to dig too far deep.
Yeah,
what I will say is politics is so prominent in all of our lives now, more than it's ever been. Yeah. And the reason why you have to pay attention to it to some extent, because it does affect finances, it does affect the economy,
absolutely.
If we look back over the past 2.5 years, all the issues we are seeing is because both the federal government and the Federal Reserve have been so involved in our economy.
Well, this is the thing.
So involved.
This is just my opinion, and feel free to disagree with me, because like I do think you and I see eye to eye on a lot of things politically, but I will say this about the Federal Reserve and the federal government's, and their involvement in our economy is I feel like we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. There's a certain political party that wants more involvement, more accountability from the federal government onto our financial banks. There's a political party that wants more regulation, more all that stuff. And there's the other side that says, let's just completely get out of it.
But see, I would say both sides are very involved.
I understand that, because I think what's happening is there's one side that's seeing the other side pull the White House towards one side, and then the other side will say, all right, no. Like the Democrats will say, hey, come more over here. And then the Republicans will say, no, come over here.
Right.
I think the big thing is the government is caught between a rock and a hard place. Right. But I think the reason why, like, look at healthcare, for instance. Do we have too much or do we have not enough involvement from the federal government? And then we have lobbyists on both sides trying to pull the government, the Senate, whatever it is, in one of their directions. And I think because the government just can't make up their mind, I think that's the reason why we have what we have. That's the reason why healthcare is so expensive in the U.S. Not to mention, like, we also have the best doctors in the world and all kinds of stuff.
Here's my problem is, if you look back in history, before I'd say the 1930s or so, both the federal government and the Federal Reserve weren't that involved in the economic policy and the economics behind, regulating interest rates, pumping liquidity in the markets, taking liquidity out, social programs.
When was the Federal Reserve established? In what, like 1917? We were still on the gold standard for 60, 70
Social
years.
Social Security was created like in the 40s, I believe. So that's when Social Security was created.
Do you know what Social Security is now?
A big Ponzi scheme. It's
a Ponzi scheme, but it's basically a pile of money that the federal government can use to borrow if they have a shortfall in a different department. So if they need more military spending, they borrow from Social Security. And they've always, that's what Social Security is. So I'm like, why not just create a different thing?
Well, you're exactly right with that. And then all throughout the 70s and 80s with the hyperinflation, the Federal Reserve got involved with, hiking interest rates. And they got involved with food stamps, welfare. They got involved in the tech bubble. They got involved in 08, 09.
Oh, yeah.
And then you saw COVID, the shutdowns. You saw them pump $7 trillion, on the balance sheet. Like, I'm just saying, like,
even prior,
the bubble got
even
bigger.
Prior to COVID with the EV stuff too, but sorry. So the bubble got bigger.
No, dude, you're good. Don't ever say sorry. Like you're hitting on some good points. It's getting me. I'm pretty fired up, dude.
That's great.
We are so involved. The government is so big that we're too far deep. Once you give somebody sugar, you can't take the sugar away because everybody expects more sugar, and that's the environment we are in right now.
Absolutely.
That's why people are wanting UBI, Universal Basic Income. They're wanting Biden to step, in here, get the gas prices down as quick as possible. They think the federal government should be involved in everything.
Have you seen? Okay, so first of all, Biden said today, he can't lower oil prices anymore. Which I'm like, okay, the fact that you were able to lower oil prices to begin with, the fact that you can just control oil like that, the government can.
Which is horrible.
By flooding.
Why not letting the free markets work? Why can't they let the free markets work properly? If they would have shut down the pipeline in the first place in America and let capitalism work its way, work its magic, we'd have probably $1.50 oil or gasoline prices right now.
Well, I mean, that's a stretch, but I hear exactly what you're saying. With transportation of oil.
You had too much bourbon, guys.
Yeah, sorry. With transportation of oil being a lot cheaper, I get it. 150 though, I don't know.
Well, I'm because throwing out a number, man. I'm throwing out really the basis of the issues all stem from it stems from the federal government and Federal Reserve getting bigger. But
absolutely,
looks like you're out of bourbon, buddy. Looks like you're out of bourbon.
That much? Oh man, dude, we need to.
That's my favorite.
Drink together in person again soon, man.
I'm on number 3 right now. I just ordered myself another.
You're number 3. I'll be honest with you, and I'm not bragging. I'm just saying this is number 4.
Oh, okay. I'll catch up by the end of this.
Yeah, shots.
It's only a Wednesday night. If it's Thirsty Thursday, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I got a long day tomorrow, bro.
Oh shoot. Well, one of these days we're gonna get together. We're gonna take some shots. But like, if you ask anybody in the world, do you trust the government? What do you think the answer is going to be?
That's a good one. I think a lot of people trust it more than they should. It'd be a minority for sure, but I would say upwards probably of 30% of the population would say they trust the government.
So I'm going to say this. So a lot of right wingers do not trust the government, and a lot of left wingers, they'll listen to the song by Pink Floyd called Mother. There's a song called Mother by Pink Floyd.
It's off
of the best album that's ever been made. This is the best album, in my opinion.
I meditate at night to Pink Floyd sometimes, and I might do that tonight.
Okay, dude, The Wall is the best album that's ever been made. I've listened to that album from track 1 to track 35 or whatever it is, all the way through so many times. But there's a lyric off of the Mother, and Roger Waters goes, "Mother, should I trust the government?" Every time he does that live in front of a very politically mixed crowd, everybody goes, no, right?
No, you're exactly right, man. I think people are fed up. There's a lot of people that are fed up. I would say there's more trust, I think, in the system still than there should be.
I agree.
Just from my observation. I mean,
and this is the thing is, like, I think, people are dependent on the Federal Reserve to curb inflation. People are too dependent on the administration to lower gas prices. And have you looked at the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the SPR, recently?
So real quick, I'm gonna. I thought about this a lot recently. I'm gonna make like an assumption, and I don't know if it's necessarily the perfect assumption and not the perfect way to say this. But what I will say is, what I've noticed is a lot of people I talk to. I have a bunch of buddies on the opposite side of the aisle of myself, and. One of the biggest things that I've noticed is with that side of the aisle, they think that everything needs to be this perfect utopia all the time. Yeah. And I think that's the same way our federal government and Federal Reserve from really both sides of the aisle try to approach things. Like, they try to promise that every issue is going to be fixed. Yeah. Naturally, it's okay to not be perfect. The world is never going to be a perfect place. We have, over the past 2 years, and really ever since the government's gotten bigger over the past century, we've tried to patch every single bruise that we've had with a Band-Aid. Patching a bruise with a Band-Aid doesn't work. You patch a cut with the Band-Aid, right? That's what we've done as a society. We try to fix all these issues that don't need necessarily fixed. And by trying to fix them, we actually make things worse down the road.
Well, we create other issues by doing that. Because the creation of the Federal Reserve, for one, we thought that was going to fix a lot of things. Remember? Yeah. Like, did we not? And then on top of that, now we have this dependence on them where, okay, money supply is too high. Hey guys, you guys are in charge of taking away money supply, so do it.
Right.
And here we are, June 1st, 2022.
QT.
QT. That's you. QT. Let's do it. I don't like that we can just expand our balance sheet by $7 trillion.
If Neil says to me tomorrow something about QT, I'm going to say the same thing I said to you. Oh, thanks, Neil. Thanks for calling me QT.
Neil, thanks. You should. That's exactly what you should do. That's exactly what you should do. I mean, just make sure you don't mess it up when he says quantitative tightening. You don't confuse that.
Yeah, if you did, everyone's gonna be like,
"What? That's gonna." I hope Neil Cavuto does that. I hope he calls you.
Last time I was on last week, he's like, "Yeah, Luke, this young guy, he's super hip, he's super cool." I'm like,
"Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw that whole segment. Don't worry."
I'm like, I really appreciate. it means so much, man. Like for me, like coming from him, it really does. I've watched him.
It's Neil Cavuto. I mean, Neil Cavuto is a G, man. I've watched him for 10 years.
Right. I've watched him for like 25 years. Yeah, like ever since I was like 1 year old, dude. I've been watching that guy. But I'm like, it means a lot. And I appreciate it. But I'm like, Neil, you're pumping me up too much, bro. Like, I really appreciate it.
That's crazy, man. But I don't know. Like, what are your projections going forward? I mean, do you think there is going to be a 30% drawdown from the highs?
I think we're going to retest. I think we're going to retest the lows.
When you say the lows, what do you mean? Do you mean like the lows from a couple months, from like about a couple weeks ago?
Okay, I'm a big nerd. Nice. Obviously,
you love technical analysis, right?
I do.
Yeah, because
it's one thing. If you learned anything from our internship,
I've learned Fibonacci's, so I've learned that. Man.
That's what it is. That's what I was about to say.
Okay,
Fibonacci.
Okay, so
if you
what percentile?
If you apply like a 50% retracement or 61.8% retracement.
61.8.
You apply that to, or it's not going to be all the way down. So what I mean is really like a
maybe there's a support level there.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So once you apply those ratios, the golden ratio to that, from the bottom to the top of the run,
the golden ratio.
Yeah, exactly. The golden ratio from the bottom of 2020 to the top of 2022 or 2021. When you apply to the bottom of the top, you're looking closer to 37 to 3,800 on the S&P. We touched 3,900.
3,800. Okay, so I don't know if you know this or not, but the starter for Drunkenomics ahead of you, James. Him and I have a bet going that in about a month, the S&P will be above or below 4,400, and I'm losing that bet.
Yeah, you're fucked.
I mean, I don't think I'm going to win it anymore. I'll be dead honest. I've set that money aside in my bank, and I said, okay, this is to buy James a bottle. Yeah, I don't think the S&P is going to go up 300 points.
I think it will go down 300 points.
I think it will too. And to be honest with you, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, and this is not financial advice by any means, but I think at the end of the day, we'll draw down to about at least 32%, just because this is the biggest Q2 cycle we've ever seen.
You're right. The other factor on the other side, though, you always have to keep in mind is all the money we printed. There's still $6 trillion more out there than there was a couple of years ago.
Right. I mean, it's 40, because what happened? During COVID, 40% of the money supply was printed.
Yep.
Right.
But that money, it takes a long time to cycle through the economy. It's called M2, right? The M2 money supply.
The M2 money supply. But that's good. But that goes to the savings rates. That goes to because the M2 is savings rates.
But somebody gets that money, though.
Right. Of course. Yeah. Every time.
And that's why naturally, when you pump that much money in the economy, you deal with what we're dealing with now, the inflation, all that stuff. But somebody still has that money. It's like basically what happens is that money gets pulled forward, right? That growth gets pulled forward. We saw that growth get pulled forward. That's why we bounced 100% from the lows, from the pandemic lows.
Right.
And now we're paying for it. It's going to be a couple years of probably sideways movement. Like we're probably not going to get back to all-time highs until another couple years down the road.
I agree. I mean, I don't know if it'll take a couple of years to get to I mean, I don't know what all-time highs were. Was it 48, 48?
Yeah, it's about 30% 49. Higher. It's about 20 to 25% higher.
Yeah, I mean, it might take a couple of years, but like, it's kind of like what, I don't know if you know who Josh Brown is.
Downtown Josh Brown. Yeah.
I love, he is so funny in my opinion. I love Josh Brown. Not even that I agree with a lot of what he says, but it's just, he's so funny. Yeah. If he was a stand-up comic, I would pay a lot of money to go see him. Yeah. But he was like, if you buy into the markets now, like, do yourself a favor and forget the password to your brokerage account. Right? I mean, when he said that, I was like, that's so true, because I do feel like 5 years from now, is the market going to be better than it is now? I think so.
Probably. I think we can all agree with that. Yeah.
To me, I think it's a statement of fact. I think
the problem is everybody is short-term sighted.
I agree. And if I had to make a bet with James again, okay, is the market going to be above or below 5,000 5 years from now? I would take that bet any day of the week. Let's do it. Let's do above 5,000.
I'll take that bet right now with you. So, I'll take it 5 years down the road. I think we'll be. Let's do 6,000. I'll go on air right now.
No, because I want to be above. I want to be above 5,000, or I want to be above 6,000.
I do too.
Exactly. I don't know if James will be on the bearish side of that. I mean, the 6,000 maybe, but the 5,000. There's no way James would be like, no, the S&P will not be above.
The other thing you want to think about is we aren't a single economy. We're a global economy.
Well, like, it's not just. But that's getting diminished. But that's getting threatened.
It is. But I'm saying what you're seeing is people are leaving investments from Europe, from China, from all these other areas around the world, and they're coming to the U.S. to invest. What happens when you come to a certain area and invest money? Valuations rise.
So this the thing is, one of my very close friends here in the DFW area in Dallas-Fort Worth is a prominent real estate guy. He's the founder and CEO of one of the biggest commercial real estate companies. I don't want to give out too much information on him. He's got a bunch of PhDs and all that kind of stuff. And I asked him, like, okay, do you think the real estate market will crash? And his only answer was, it depends on where you are. Do I think it will crash in DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth? No. But I also think in a lot of places in the U.S., there's going to be a lot of foreign investments. So I don't think real estate markets are going to crash necessarily in the U.S. Will they come down a little bit? Maybe. We'll see. But will they crash? No. Just because there's going to be too much foreign investment.
That's a great point. And I'll tell you what, the housing market and the real estate market is a whole different story.
I agree.
Because demand's going to lessen naturally because of interest rates rising. But the other thing people don't account for is that there's no supply. Most places, you have the BlackRocks, the Blackstones, you have investors individual investors like me and you that are just buying up real estate properties to rent out. There's no supply out there.
Yeah, well, BlackRock owns everything. Like, they pretty much own everything in real estate now. And but who wants to buy real estate? Like, would you want to buy a house to rent out to people right now?
No, but I think about renting out my current house and buying another home.
Yes,
because the reason I say that, I'll be straight up. I bought my house a year from basically 2 months ago. So a year and 2 months ago. So I locked in my interest rate at 2.5% on a 30-year rate. That's free money.
Not bad. Yeah.
I am never selling this house ever. If I ever leave this house and buy another house, I'm renting this house out.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, just to tie a bow on this conversation, I mean, what do you think about the just general consensus on the economy? Because you're much smarter than me.
If I had to sum it up in easy terms, and everything we kind of talked about alludes to kind of my beliefs, right? But I guess if I had to sum it up, we've got a couple years of pain. But this is overdue pain. Like, we did so much over the past couple years that I'd rather us go through pain right now rather than try to patch it up with another Band-Aid over a bruise that makes things worse maybe 5 years down the road. I'd rather go through this 2-year period maybe where we see people lose jobs. I'm not saying that the entire economy is going to shit. I'm not saying that. I'm saying people are going to lose jobs. We're going to see the stock market probably retest the lows, maybe go lower, maybe down at $3,600 on the S&P. We're going to see that pain. We're going to see 401ks reduce. But I'd rather go through that now over the next couple of years to get back to growth mode about 2 years down the road. So stop. If I could talk to every politician out there and all the Federal Reserve members, including Powell and all them guys that got it wrong, because I've been saying it for myself for a year and a half that inflation is not transitory. If I could talk to all those guys, I'd be like, give us the pain right now, hike interest rates, hike us into a recession.
Do it. Go.
That way we get peel off the Band-Aid, make it hurt a little bit right now. We'll get back to growth mode a couple of years down the road.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
My problem. First of all, they won't do it because of stability.
Because of politics.
Because
Powell himself, there's a reason. Why do you think, real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt this.
No.
Why do you think Powell waited to get more hawkish until after he was reelected by Biden? It was 2 weeks later. Well, 2 weeks.
What about Janet Yellen? Janet Yellen?
Today she said that, I was wrong about inflation.
Whoa. Where did this come from?
There's always something bias in people's views. That's why when people go on TV. So that's one thing, as you introduced me earlier. One thing I told myself from the beginning is that I wanted to be real. I wanted to tell it how it is. No bullshit. Mm-hmm. Even when people go on TV, they have an agenda. Like a lot of these people have agendas. Like, I try to keep it real, have no bullshit. I tell it how it is, dude. I don't care who I offend. Who I make pissed off.
No, you've always been super real. And that's what I've always appreciated about you.
And I appreciate that because, I mean, the thing is, I work my ass off to try to be as accurate as I can. I'm not always perfect. I'm not always right. But, I try to be real. I am always real.
But I value your opinion immensely just because of how real you are. And you say, okay, look, I've done this study. This is exactly where I think this stock is going. And I hear you. Like, people have been saying the Federal Reserve has lost credibility. And me, and I feel like you're on this camp with me, but me, myself, I've sat here and I've said, okay, the Federal Reserve cannot lose credibility unless I gave them their credibility to begin with. Right. And if they said since April of last year, April of 2021, that inflation is transitory, I said it was permanent. I said, no way. We need to raise rates now. I said that back in April of last year.
Yeah.
And James will attest to that. James was there. I said, no way. And it's not like they have more data than you and I have. We have the same access to data.
Here's the problem, is that we are born into a system and we are taught to believe in that system. Like we talked about during this whole, we are taught to believe that the people in power know what they're doing. But in reality, what people need to understand is that everyone's just a human being, most likely just like themselves, and they make mistakes. The president doesn't necessarily make every decision the right way. Congress doesn't make every decision the right way. Federal Reserve, Powell, they don't make every decision. They're human. They make mistakes.
God, no.
But that's the problem, is we are taught from a young age to believe in the system that the people in power know what's going on. They always are right, and that's just not the case. And I think that's what a lot of people are realizing.
Right, exactly. Well, when it comes to making investment choices, I personally, I don't see an end in sight to oil not reaching all-time highs. I don't see an end in sight, personally. I'm not a financial advisor, so I don't want anybody to take that advice. But, real quick, what do you see with energy prices?
I think oil is going higher. But that being said,
I agree.
I don't know necessarily if it's going to reach all-time highs. I don't know where it's necessarily going to land. But what I mean is I think oil is going higher in the short term at least. But what I will say is if you're not in the game now, for example, energy is a 4% weighting in the S&P. It's such a small little piece of the pie, right? So a lot of people didn't own a lot of energy, if at all. A lot of people own zero energy, essentially, because there's such a small weighting, right?
Well, and it got smaller with COVID.
Right. So what I will say, and as a financial advisor, even saying this to people out there, this isn't financial advice because I don't know your individual situation. I need to understand all the different moving parts and pieces to give any kind of recommendation.
100%.
But that being said, what I will say is if you're not in already right now in the oil game, you've missed a huge run up. You've missed a big part of it, right? So the risk is a lot higher now.
You've missed 80% of it, I would say.
So we personally just picked up, it's a stock called CCJ. It's
Cameco.
It's a nuclear energy company. Cameco. So they produce uranium. Yeah. It's more based on the nuclear energy side of things. And the thing that's not talked about often, because all you hear is green energy being solar, hydro powered with water, all this different stuff. Yeah. Nuclear energy is actually the cleanest energy out there, and it's the most efficient.
I agree.
So I think it's getting a lot more political drive. It's getting a lot more things like that. So we're actually focusing more on the nuclear space right now because we sold off actually some of our oil stocks about a week ago.
Really?
Yep.
A week ago was a good time to sell off oil stocks. But if you must know, and this is not financial advice, I'm just a degenerate gambler. I did recently buy some energy transfer calls, ET. They expire way out in August, but I sold some shorts to kind of do a calendar spread against them. So, more of not calendar.
So you're an options guy now. So from what I've heard, right?
I'm an options guy now, dude. Are
you doing straddles? Are you doing the iron condors and stuff like that?
I've done some iron condors. Straddles to me are too expensive. Straddles are too expensive. Strangles are a little bit less expensive, but I just, I need the stock to move.
Yeah.
And I feel like every time I've done a strangle, the stock never moved. And I'm just like, what? Why? Yeah. Now? Right? You have a historical IV of 300%, and then now you don't move, or whatever,
For those out there that don't know options, learn options. Options can change your life. But don't do what Robinhood, these meme stock traders do. Don't YOLO naked calls. Don't YOLO naked puts.
No. Understand the Greeks. Please understand the Greeks. If you trade options, understand the Greeks. Know what delta means. Know what theta means. Know what
theta burn.
Theta burn, man. Dude, this is theta burn. This bottle of bourbon.
I'm almost out of my bourbon, dude.
That is also theta burn too. You see what I mean? That's theta burn, man, dude. So theta decay. Understand theta decay. Gamma. If you see a position with positive delta, negative gamma, what does that mean, right? You gotta know what that means,
dude. We're freaking nerds, bro.
I know.
How do we become nerds?
Dude, I don't know. I think after a couple of these and a couple of cigars with you, I think that's how we became nerds.
Can you tell our viewers real quick, Macanudo Club story? Or Club Macanudo?
Club Mac in New York City. So this is the Macanudo Club.
So what I remember about Club Macanudo is me and Aaron, we were interns walking into this place. And me and him probably had like $150, $200 suits from Macy's or something like that. Like,
yeah,
we thought our suits looked good. Aaron's suit looks a lot better than mine.
No, shut up. No, that's not true. That's not true. I had a silver suit, and
we walk in there though, and we walk in there as interns. You know, we were just starting out. We were like 21 years old. We didn't belong whatsoever. We walk in there. We almost got rejected, but I think the guy felt sorry for us.
Yeah, so he did. He was. Yeah, it was one of those things where you walk in, if you don't have a jacket on, if you don't have a suit jacket on, they're gonna kick you out. Well, you got there before I did because I didn't know how the subway system worked because that's how much New York annoyed me. So I get there way after you. You were already in, and like they barely let me in, and then eventually it was like
we got a free dessert out of it too. Right?
We did because I ended up knowing, I had a mutual friend with the owner of the place. From Nebraska, of all places. But basically, it was one of those places where like the well cocktail was like $25 for like the cheapest old fashioned. Remember that?
It was one drink and one cigar for like $100 each.
Dude, I know exactly. It was like and it was like the cheapest cigar and the cheapest Manhattan that we could possibly order. Because that was my thing. That was our thing. Was we drank Manhattans.
And I still do. In honor of you, man. Dude, you got me hooked on these things.
Manhattans are the best. Okay. Rusty Nails are the best cocktail, but it's tied with Manhattans. Those two drinks. The best cocktails ever.
Let's end on that because cheers to that, dude. Cheers to Drunkenomics, Manhattan's, Bourbon, Basil Hayden, Aaron Wong, Drunkenomics.
Yeah. Real quick, I just gotta say, as we wrap up, if you want to find our merch, go to drunkenomics.myspreadshop.com, Patreon, patreon.com/drunkenomics. That's where you can help us keep the lights on, the cabinet stocked, ice cubes cold. I don't know what else. And last but not least, Luke, I love you, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
I love you, bro. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, man.
Anytime, dude, just let me know.
You got it, man. And the only thing I got to ask from you is hope for the rest of this week, I hope that you...
Dude, of course. Stay drunkenomical, bro.
My man, dude. Cheers. I'll see you on Kavuda tomorrow.
Thanks, bro.